Okay, let's start. I think last time I have introduced the unicast, multicast, and the broadcast to you. So can anyone still remember that? I have just draw these diagrams here. Can you figure out which one is which one?
The first one is unicast.
Yeah, correct. Unicast. I just use you here too.
Okay, the last one is broadcast.
Correct. And
Between
of course
so
it is
multicast.
multicast. So here is the problem.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So is the broadcast one kind of multicast? So if you see the middle of the three line in the multicast, the middle left right.
Actually, for the multicast, that each side will have maintain a list whether they will get the information from which node. But for the broadcast, this one have no list. It just the broadcast is signal, and these three nodes decide whether it will get that information or not.
Okay.
So I have a very interesting problem here. That suppose in this situation, in the multicast, you see, the signals are sent by all the three nodes and all these three nodes here in this system, right? Suppose in the wireless system. And how can we differentiate those waves in the air? I think you all know that signals are transferred by the sine wave, by this kind of wave, right, here in the system. And how this can be differentiated. Okay, it is a very interesting problem, I think. And in this class, I will talk about how to differentiate these waves. And this technique is called multiplex. There are in total three kinds of multiplex techniques. They are I'm not just saying there are only these three kind of multiplex techniques, but these three are most used in the practical in the industry. So for this one, in this class, I will introduce them one by one. First, these are the abbreviations, right? I will give the full name. This is called time division multiplex access, and this one is called frequency division multiplex access, and the last one is called code division multiplex access, and I will introduce them one by one. The first one is the TDMA. Actually, I can make a very vivid example here. Suppose that in this classroom, that everyone want to talk with each other. They want to say something, let's suppose in secret. But the object is to make sure that the one you want to talk with can hear you very clearly. Then, in this kind of mode, I will give you an example. It is just like this. In the first time, I will talk with Hongjian, and then anyone else should keep quiet. Then Hongjian will talk, give me the feedbacks, and in this time, I will keep quiet, and Ran will be quiet also. In the next time, Hongjian will talk with Ran, and I will keep quiet. You got it? That means only one person is permitted to speak at one time. Do you have any questions about this?
Yes, actually I have one.
Okay, you got it.
So the MA here means sorry, this means what?
It is called multiplex access.
So the meaning of this is basically saying the media we can use to transmit this signal. Yeah, we
Yes.
share the media.
Yes, actually there is another term. It is called just TDM. But TDMA and TDM are from different perspectives. One is from the senders, and this one is from the receivers. From the senders, it means it will differentiate the signals at the beginning. And this means we will get the information from the receiver's perspective. Is that clear?
I'm not going to ask that question.
Okay.
What I'm asking is like, so here the assumption is like we share the media of this signal transmission.
Yes, it is right. That every signal, the wave is mixed in the air.
So for those FDMA, CDMAs, so that's multiplex. It only happens when you need to share this media.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So it is applied in the wireless systems because everybody should use the waves in the air to transmit their information, right? And then you know what does TDMA means. And I can use the waves to describe this also. You can see that for the first person, let's suppose this is a timeline. This means T. And for the first period of time, a person sent his information in this kind of wave.
Okay.
And in the second one, another person do this. And in the third one, back to the first person, and so on and so forth. You got it? Yes. So let's go to the second one, the FDMA, for the frequency. According to the name, frequency division, can you just have a guess? What does this mean?
I guess it's like two people saying the speak at the same time but with different frequency.
Yes, exactly. But maybe
frequency of the wave, the wavelength is different, then the frequency is different.
Yes, correct.
At the same time.
Correct. This means that let me just back to the example I gave you in the first one. In this room, we all want to talk to each other, right? And this time, I will do like this. I talk to Hongjian in a very flat voice. And then Hongjian will talk to Ran in a very sharp voice. This means I will do, my voice is just like this. Very flat. And Hongjian's, the frequency is very high. He will do maybe something like this. Yeah. Like this. When Ran hear very flat voice, he will recognize it as from who? Ran.
From you.
Yeah, it is me, exactly. It is me that sent that voice. So this is called FDMA. Then I will go to the last one. It is called CDMA. It is like maybe this one is a little bit abstruse to be understood. But also back to that example I gave you. This time, we all want to talk with each other, but this time, Hongjian only knows Chinese, but he doesn't know English. Suppose, and Ran only knows English and he don't know how to speak Chinese and he cannot understand Chinese also. If this time the other people are speaking English in this room, and I will talk to Hongjian in Chinese. When Hongjian get it, only Hongjian can get it, and the other people cannot. In this time, and next time if I want to talk with Ran, I can speak in English, and Hongjian will want to know that. That means Chinese and English, they are totally very two different things. So in this CDMA, the code division multiplex access systems, the signals are using different codes that are orthodox. That means that these codes are irrelevant to each other. You can just simplify to understand this term in this way. And I will introduce the orthogonal. Is this correct in spelling? Sorry, I'm not very sure about this. Maybe you can correct me. Orthogonal. Yeah. I will.
You can continue.
Yeah, I will explain this idea in detail in the next class.
Yes, correct.
Okay. You can just simply to understand this as totally different things, as I mentioned. The Chinese and English, they are totally different things. So.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Okay.
So in the CDMA, I think two people can talk simultaneously with different language or signal.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good question. And you are correct because in CDMA, people really, not people, the senders and receivers, they can really communicate with each other simultaneously. But they use different code. It is something like this. There is a technique called OFDM. It is just use two kind of signals. Suppose this is a 3D space, and one use the signal in this plane, and it will be like this.
Okay.
And the other one will do this. This orange line, this signal, are in the X. This orange one is in the plane of Y and Z, but this one is in the plane of X and Y. So they are orthogonal in this case.
Okay.
And they can communicate with each other simultaneously. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's clear.
So in this class, we have to make a summary gist. We have introduced the idea of multiplex, and I have introduced the three techniques in this kind of systems. And we will going to explain this kind of idea in the next class.
Okay.
So do you have some other questions?
It's like in practice, which of this encoding method? Which method is used most?
Actually, from maybe from the 1990s on, the communications first I use this kind of techniques because it is very easy to be realized. And then with the improvement of the techniques, we can use very high frequency to transmit our informations, and then this kind of techniques come out. And later in the very beginning of the 21st century, yeah, you're correct. This kind of techniques come out, and it is created by Qualcomm, and it is very. It can in this kind of techniques, the power can be lowered down. This kind of techniques are used these days very often.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there any other questions?
Can you give me an example of the multiplex? I mean, how we the information we use to transfer by this multiplex.
Okay, yeah. I can give you something like this. You use mobile phones, right? And do you use 3G or LTE?
3G.
In 3G, right?
Yeah.
In 3G, maybe this kind of techniques and this kind of techniques are widely used in the current 3G communications. And for the 4G LTE, maybe just this one belongs to this one. OFDM are widely used. You commonly use to mobile phone.
So just you see I send message to Hongjian is because the frequency is special or the code is special.
Just when your message is when you get your message right, then it will be encoded to some numbers. It will be mapped to a group of numbers, and these numbers will be sent to Hongjian. But for the messages, it will not use. It will use a special. It will only use the frequency or the multiplex techniques as the very original one in the GPRS. But for if you want to do the video communications with Hongjian, it will use use the network. Then the 3G or LTE will be applied.
From my understanding, I have a simple explanation to that. So here the multiplex, right? Basically, you can think the multiplex is like one way to share this media when you communicate with others. Because when one pair they are communicating, then others cannot access the media. Otherwise, So the multiplex, from my own understanding, is like a way to share this media.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah, it is correct. As I explained, all the waves are mixed in the air, but you have to differentiate it.
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yeah, actually, so I send a message. Actually, I mean to send it to Hongjian.
Yeah.
How did the mobile phone, how did it didn't come to you instead of come to Hongjian?
How did it come to me or to?
Yeah,
Actually, this problem only happens in this case. Suppose 10 people are sending their messages at a time, and then they will send their messages through the base station, and the base station will decide who is the receiver, right? Then how will the base station decide who is the sender? Then it will use, in most cases, this kind of techniques are used, the TDM way. Then it will just decide the one who first come, and it will be tagged with your ID. Just for the messages, but not for the video communications or the network.
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.